Welcome back. Today we will be discussing if the testimony given to us in the Gospels is reliable and if we can trust it. Now, before we get into the video, I want to be clear that this video is made under the mindset that the Apostle Matthew and John both wrote their Gospels, and that Mark's Gospel is based on the eyewitness testimony of Peter the Apostle. If you have a problem with this and think that the Gospels are simply forgeries, I have linked in the description below a whole video I have made on this topic. Before we discuss the reliability of the testimony given to us, we first need to understand what the major claims of testimony are in the Gospels. The first major claim is that Jesus is the predicted Messiah. We see this recorded in Mark, which is historically the earliest Gospel to be written, and it goes as such in Mark 8:29. He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah." This same event is recorded as well in both Matthew and Luke's Gospel. John's Gospel doesn't record this event, but he does record another instance when Jesus is talking to the Samaritan woman at the well in John 4:25-26. The woman says this, "I know that the Messiah is coming. When he comes, he will proclaim all things to us." Jesus said to her, "I am he, the one who is speaking to you." What the Gospels show from these verses is that Jesus' followers claimed he was the Messiah, and as well that he claimed himself to be the Messiah. The second major claim is that Jesus was crucified. One of the places we see this is in Matthew 27:35, and it goes as such. "And when they had crucified him, they divided his garments among them by casting lots." Similar to the last major claim, this event is as well recorded in Mark and Luke's Gospel. In John 19:18, Jesus' crucifixion is recorded as such. "There they crucified him, with him 2 others, one on either side, with Jesus between them." The third major claim of the Gospels was that Jesus rose from the dead 3 days after his crucifixion. The proclamation from the angels of his miraculous rising from the dead is recorded exactly the same in Matthew, Mark, and Luke's Gospels. But since Mark is the earliest written, I will be pulling from there. Mark records this event as such in Mark 16:6. "And he said to them, 'Do not be amazed, you seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him.'" In John's Gospel account, Thomas doubts whether Jesus truly rose from the dead, so Jesus appears to the apostles and Thomas and says, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe." In John's Gospel account, he is very clear that Jesus had a physical resurrection from the dead and not a spiritual one. Now that we've established what the claims of the Gospels are, we can get into why we should trust its claims. The main argument of its reliability that I will be using today is based purely upon the apostles' sufferings and deaths. Clement, Bishop of Rome, lived from 35 to 99 AD. In a letter to the Corinthians, he writes, "Through envy and jealousy, the greatest and most righteous pillars of the church have been persecuted and put to death. Let us set before our eyes the illustrious apostles." He then further clarifies one of the specific apostles who was killed when he says, "Peter, through unrighteous envy, endured not 1 or 2, but numerous labors, and when he had at length suffered martyrdom, departed to the place of glory due to him." In these verses alone, Clement establishes that the apostles, and as well specifically Peter, were killed for their faith in martyrdom. We can hold Clement's letters to be more reliable as he lived during the period of the apostles. The next early church father who talks about the deaths and sufferings of the apostles is that of Polycarp. Now, Polycarp lived from 69 to 155 AD. Tradition has it that Polycarp was a student of the apostle John, so Polycarp's writings on the apostles are more reliable as he knew one of them. Polycarp as well wrote a letter to the Philippians around 110 to 113 AD. In it, he talks about the church father named Ignatius and how he was martyred for his faith. After that, he says this, "And in Paul himself and the other apostles, having confidence that none of them ran in vain, but in faith and righteousness, and that they are with the Lord in the place which they are due, with whom they also suffered. In this quote, we have yet another source confirming the sufferings and as well the deaths the apostles endured. When you look at the miraculous claims of the apostles through the various gospel accounts, and the fact that they were willing to die for these beliefs, and they eventually, of course, did die for these beliefs, this shows a sense of genuineness of their claims and rids away the mentality some secular critics have about the Gospels, that they were just made-up stories. Why would the apostles lie about the resurrection of Christ and continue to preach it and suffer persecution with the full knowledge that they could die preaching this? And like I mentioned, they eventually did die for preaching this. The more likely and logical route was that they were genuine about what they saw and truly did believe that they saw the resurrected Christ. The common objection to this argument I have made usually brings up other religions. The person objecting to the argument might bring up how Muslims during the Crusades died for their beliefs, but that doesn't make it true. My response to that is quite simple. The Muslims in the Crusades didn't directly see Muhammad as they lived centuries after him. So this argument doesn't match up with mine, as the apostles were direct eyewitnesses of Jesus who were willing to die. This as well applies to Christians in the Crusades who died for their beliefs, but they as well were not direct eyewitnesses of Christ, so they would not be considered eyewitnesses. It goes to show the uniqueness of the sufferings and deaths of the apostles, as of course they were direct eyewitnesses of Jesus' miracles. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on the reliability of the Gospels. I want to give a quick thank you as we just hit 50 subscribers, so I'm very excited for the potential journey that this channel might have. So as always, if you enjoyed it, like the video, subscribe, and God bless.